Hi, and thanks for watching this how-to video with the ICS-Defender Simple NAT. In this video, we assume that the ICS-Defender you're using is fresh out of the box and has not been previously configured. Plug your laptop or PC that you're going to configure with into the RE1 port on the front of the ICS-Defender. Set your laptop or PC's network address to something in the 192.168.200 range as the default IP address for the ICS-Defender on the RE1 interface is 192.168.200.1. When you connect to the ICS-Defender at that address, you should be prompted with a welcome sign. Click Get Started to begin configuring the ICS-Defender. If you would prefer, take a moment and review the terms of use prior to clicking Get Started. Once you've clicked Get Started, you should be prompted for a username and password. The default username for ICS-Defender is admin, and the default password is ICS-Defender or ICS-Defender. When you've logged into the ICS-Defender, you're prompted or presented with the ICS-Defender configuration. This configuration has 4 basic sections. The first section, or the ICS-Defender configuration, is the host name. You can either leave the host name the same, or if you have an asset number or location in the plant or facility, or some other unique identifier you'd like to change this to, type it in now. We highly recommend that you change the admin password to something other than the default of ICS-Defender. In this video, I'm going to leave it at ICS-Defender, but know that we do recommend you change that. Under WAN IP configuration, by default, the ICS-Defender is set to DHCP. It's at 172.21.0.61 on my network here locally. If you change that to static, you will have to set an IP address that you want on the northbound side or the RE0 Ethernet interface on the front of the ICS-Defender. The LAN IP configuration is the same address you'll note that we used to connect to the ICS-Defender. That default address is static at 192.168.200.1. If you change this address and hit apply, you will have to change the address you're using in the URL of your web browser to connect to the ICS-Defender. Once you've configured these settings or left these settings alone, depending on what you plan to do, it's time to configure a one-to-one NAT. The northbound interface should almost always be set to WAN. The northbound address is the IP address on your enterprise network or upper level network that you want to NAT through to something on the lower network or the southbound network. In this example, I'm going to use 172.21.0.253 as the address on my enterprise network, and I'm going to use 192.168.200.53 on my southbound or controls network. Add a description to describe this NAT entry and click the Add One-to-One NAT button. Note that it indicates the rules have changed and that you have to apply those changes for it to take effect. You can either apply these changes now or add additional NAT entries. I'm going to add a second NAT entry at 172.21.0.254, and I'm going to NAT that to a PLC at 192.168.200.54. and I'm going to give it the description 5585E, and I'm going to add that NAT. I'm going to apply it, and it indicates all pending NAT changes were successfully applied. If I return to the ICS-Defender configuration by clicking the ICS-Defender logo, I can see that those NAT entries are in place down here. I can test those entries from my laptop by pinging one of the addresses on the northbound side. That's actually going to ping through the ICS-Defender to either one of these addresses, depending on which one I choose to ping. In this instance, I'll ping 192.21.0.253, and it's actually pinging the IP address of the PLC on the southbound network at 192.168.200.53. Likewise, if I were to ping 254, it's actually pinging the PLC at 192.168.200.54. So now I know I can reach those devices through this NAT on my southbound network. At this point, if I'm done, I can log out of the ICS-Defender and the NAT will be in place and continue to work. There are other options available on the menus in the Simple NAT interface. Configure returns you to this page. License allows you to apply a license to upgrade the ICS-Defender to add more functionality. So perhaps you wanted to go to a light with deep packet inspection license, which gives you a lot more functionality in terms of firewall, deep packet inspection, and a significantly more advanced feature set. Backup and restore allows you to back up the ICS-Defender configuration or restore a backed up configuration. Update allows you to do either an offline update with a USB stick, or it reaches out to the internet to our update server and pulls down an update. Reboot restarts the ICS-Defender. DMC integration allows you to connect the ICS-Defender Simple NAT to our Defender Management Console so that this device can be managed and monitored remotely, as all ICS Defenders can through the Defender Management Console. And of course, factory reset, which requires or allows you to reset the device to factory default. On the diagnostics menu, you can ping, which allows me to ping devices on the northbound network and the southbound network so that I can see they're actually there. So for example, if I wanted to know if I could see that PLC from the ICS Defender, I could ping 192.168.200.53. And if I select ping, the ICS Defender already knows that this address range is on the LAN, so it automatically selects and pings on the LAN. If I wanted to ping something on the northbound address, like my PC that I'm using to configure the ICS Defender, I could do that, put that address in here, and it would ping automatically on the northbound side. It's important to note that if you do attempt to ping your laptop or another PC on the northbound network, and there's a firewall enabled on those devices, they may prevent the ping from getting through. Other diagnostic options are packet capture, so you can create Wireshark style PCAP captures to review the traffic coming through or to the northbound or southbound side. States, which lets you see connections coming through the ICS Defender. Traceroute lets you count how many hops between devices on your network. And test port allows you to test the port of a device on the southbound or northbound side. An example of this might be if you have a Modbus TCP device on your southbound network and you want to see if that device is actually there. So on my network, there is a Modbus TCP device at 192.168.200.88, and Modbus default port is 502. If I want to see if that port is available and that device is open, I can look here and I can see that testing that port was successful. That gives you a brief introduction to the ICS Defender with the Simple NAT interface. If you'd like additional information, please contact Dynics at dynics.com or send an email to sales@dynics.com and someone will get back with you. Alternately, you may visit our ICSDefender.com website and request more information. Subsequent videos will talk about using the Simple NAT wizard on more advanced configurations or more advanced licenses such as the traditional NAT, remote access, Pro. Thanks for watching our video, and please feel free to review any number of ICS Defender how-to videos available from Dynics.